Hey everybody, Dr. Dusa here with world champion and legendary IFBB Bodybuilding Hall of Famer Porter Cottrell. We are late, and that was my third day of technological gaffes that I've propagated just for you. At least I'm consistent. Thank you for being here tonight. This has been very looked forward to. We've got a lot of interest on Porter. I've interviewed him before. We've talked at length, and he's very interesting and edifying in his information, and he holds nothing back. So I think it's going to be very helpful for everyone and very interesting and entertaining. I do want to say your questions are solicited and entertained here. We will get to them. If we don't while we're live, we will personally respond to them. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you think it's worthwhile, and please share this so other people can enjoy and benefit from the pearls of information that we're no doubt going to be disseminating for you here tonight. Now, Porter is, I think we're the same age. I was born 63. Are you 63, yeah, 62?
No, I was born 61.
All right, 61, same bracket. So, we probably started training maybe in the 70s, caught the tail end of those days when it was more physical culture. It wasn't really called that, but it was more healthful. And you were more mindful of healthfulness, which I know you are now.
Oh, absolutely.
To certain degrees, you probably always have been. And, frankly, part of good health, how we meter it is how do you project? And, you look, if you were my patient, I had to write in a chart, patient appears much younger than stated age. So you're well preserved. You've taken care of yourself. You're still in fantastic shape. And that speaks volumes. And I think that's important. It's part of your business and my business as well now. But you competed as an amateur for a while. You had wild success. I think you won your first pro show. I have your first three.
No, first two. I won my first two.
Yeah, I've got it right here. You went in the. We're jumping ahead here a little. I'm just looking that, you did real in the pros. You did very, very well. And in fact, your last show you took third and you retired. Kind of like John Cirilli, talking to him yesterday. He won the Pro Universe in '94, and he said it's time to get out. We'll talk about why, because there's a lot of things behind this as far as what makes you a man. In fact, you and I were discussing how the pictures I put up of you tonight, one in a business suit and the other with your son. So, it's more bodybuilding just got you to where you are now. You build it, but you're not really necessarily just a bodybuilder anymore. There's so much more. And I think that's a problem with a lot of people. So tell me, how did you start in bodybuilding? I mean, we've gone over this, but people want to know. I mean, how did you start out?
Well, the catalyst for me starting in bodybuilding was me going to my first Hercules movie with Steve Reeves. And that was really the catalyst that got me involved or wanting to be a bodybuilder. Or let me just be more specific. Wanted me to the desire to look like that guy did, like, Steve Reeves did. I had no clue whatsoever what bodybuilding was, but that was the seed that was planted. And from that day on, I was around nine, maybe a little older, between 8 and 10, say. From that day on is when I had the seed planted. And it wasn't until I was around 12-ish that I was able to steal my brother's 110-pound concrete weight set and start my career in bodybuilding.
Your brother was older than you. I know you told me about that.
Yeah, he was older than me. Yeah. And that's really where it started.
Did he develop any mass or muscles at all? Did he pursue it like you, or no?
No. But he did work out, and he was very genetically gifted. I'm regardless of my hard work, effort, and sacrifice. You know what it takes, Michael. I was blessed genetically, and even though I was a very petite ectomorph type of guy, structure at that point in time, I had the ability, but so did my brother Elvis. Had the same exact ability. And even my father and my cousins on the Cottrell side, they were all very muscular. Not myself, but they were muscular because they worked on the farm and so on and so forth. So it was an underlying ability there for everyone within the Cottrell male, in the Cottrells as far as the males are concerned. And just I'm the one that kept at it. And one thing led to another. You never know what you're going to do. I was 112 pounds when I first started working out. And you know how you have dreams, but one thing led to another. And I was consistent, which is what you should be. And I sacrificed and did what I thought was the right thing to do at the level of intellect that I had at that point in time. And I just kept changing. My physique kept changing. And one thing led to another. And lo and behold, I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to compete. Scared to death I'm going to step on stage and compete. And that's what I did. I weighed 152 pounds my first show.
You know, I'll jump ahead. I remember you had a bunch of, you took your sweatsuit off and you had a bunch of little fibers stuck to you because you still won, but you didn't know what you were doing. But I want to jump back. 1988.
That was crazy. It was true.
Speaking of genetics, 1988 in Chicago, my friend and I, Dr. Mark Schmall, we went to the Junior Nationals in Chicago. We're sitting there. We had great seats. And all the guys were everybody's like a state level winner, so they're all really good. We're looking like, wow, these guys are fantastic. But one guy stood out. He was far afield of everyone else. That was you. And we were like, that guy's the winner. So when you talk about genetics, just like I talked to John Turilli was telling me he had a 19-inch arm when he was 17 years old.
Crazy.
You know, Evan Centopani and Jay Cutler both said they were close to 300 by the time they were 20. They already had all the mass. It was just refining. So really what I'm saying is, you know, pretty early on whether you have it or not. Would that be true?
I didn't per se, but it was that, honestly, when I thought I was always real methodical about how I competed. And I just didn't jump into shows. I wanted to be ready for the show. So I won the Louisville one weekend, the Mr. Kentucky the next weekend. Then I was scared to death of the Junior Nationals because I knew it was a tough show. So I did the Mr. Continental USA in Skokie, Illinois in '86. And I won that show in the overall. So that said, you know what? Maybe I am ready. So I got on the Louisville Fire Department. So I took a complete year off. So I got on the fire department. As soon as I got out of drill school, I started to get out of drill school, I started preparing for the 1988 Junior Nationals in Chicago. And that's when, once I won that show, which was incredible, I think it was 149 guys.
It was huge.
Huge. It was out of control.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't back then. What I'm going to say to you, back then, the sport's different than back then it is now, but it wasn't like 3 or 4 or 5 deep good. It was multiple. I mean, 15, 20 were good. And you know what I'm saying?
I don't want it to sound like a couple of older guys that are talking about walking to school with no shoes. But it was, you know, if you watch the London Reel interviews with both Ronnie Coleman and I think Jay Cutler, or no, not Jay Cutler, might have been Dorian.
Right.
The guy interviewed them both, and he said straight up, how would this guy, you know, Brandon Curry, nice guy, President for Olympia, how would he fare against guys from, because I know you were always right behind Dorian. And you know, Ronnie couldn't stop laughing, you know, and you can't get mad at Ronnie because he's such a nice guy, but he could not stop laughing. He goes, listen. And so Brian Rose, the interviewer, said, not top 6. And he kept laughing. He goes, no, not even top 10. They don't have the, it's different. Our bodybuilding is called bodybuilding. Their bodybuilding today is called bodybuilding, but it's not the same, right?
It's not to say if I may say this, and I don't want to take anything away from anyone.
No, we don't,
because they're incredible. They're incredible. But if I may be honest with you, it becomes something different, more of a mass mongering type of situation, but the condition's not there. And to me, what was impressive is when you had an incredible physique and you had someone that had an incredible physique with this incredible degree of symmetry and mass, but they were truly rock hard. And I'll use the terminology granite. It's like they didn't have any just a layer of a cellophane wrap around their muscle tissue. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And what I'm looking at right now is it appears that you went in the Olympia 2 years, 92 and 94. And you did very well, particularly in 94. You took 5th, but it was always Dorian Yates at the top. And according to like guys like John Romano and some of the other guys I talked to, they all say that Yates was the first one that came out with that granite look with the onion skin. And there were guys that were tremendous, maybe like you, but it was just another tier that he brought. In fact, the interesting thing is that Yates was saying that he actually would come in a little smaller than what he could carry because he wanted to make sure that he was, you know, more rock hard than guys like you. I mean, that, you know,
condition was really the number one thing at that point in time. And then once you decipher whether a person's in shape or not, then you start assessing their physiques and how do they compare to the other athletes.
Right.
You know, but condition, it's condition.
Well, here's an interesting question. I'm assuming, like Romano was saying, the difference between maybe guys like you and anybody else who tries is you're willing to, for want of a better word, suffer to a certain degree. That being said, to get in that condition, how would you be able to, and I'm sure you did, or you made allowances for this, but being a firefighter and it's a job of physicality, wouldn't that kind of interfere with your ability, when you're like eating, maybe 1,200 calories a day?
It was absolutely terrifying in many facets. I'm scared to death I was going to get hurt, number one. And number two, honestly, when you're really doing what you're supposed to do and prepping for a show, I hate to say this to you, you're not going to feel great. You're not going to feel that energetic. And it was a struggle to fight a fire, especially in the summertime.
Porter, I'll interrupt sometimes so I don't forget, but Yates was saying, when you're in shape on stage like you've been, and I've never seen you out of shape. You're one of those guys like Zane, always in shape. He said that's when you're as weak as a kitten. You look like, you're the champ, you're Steve Reeves pulling the pillars down. But is that also true as far as how you feel?
Well, it's pretty bad when you're backstage pumping up and you ask for a spot. It's pretty bad. Yeah, that's exactly how you feel. And honestly, I remember many times, because if we want to get into the diuretics and stuff like that, being sick, literally sick.
What kind of sick?
Like you're going to throw up because you're borderline. Because I would never will forget this, in 1994 Arnold Classic, and the lighting was really messed up, Michael. And remember, that's when Paul Dillett had the the thing happen, with
little with the diuretics, right?
Yeah. And so it was Kevin, Vince Taylor, and myself. And whatever round you was in the second round, and it's not easy to do your rounds. It's really not. And you had whatever you did on one side of the stage, you had to do on the other side. I remember I was more fatigued after that friggin' prejudging than I was ever fatigued after doing a fire, that I could be there for 8 hours.
Porter, what year was that? Do you remember?
94.
And was that the Arnold?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Then Kevin won, Vince was second, I was third.
Yeah, Kevin LeBron, Vince Taylor, Porter Cottrell, Chris Cormier, Andreas. And we'll talk about Andreas. He ties into Momo Benaziza, and I know we'll talk about that. Lee Priest. I mean, look at all of these guys. Even Pavel Jablonecki.
I know. Incredible bodybuilder.
Fantastic. Even little Flavio Baccanini.
I know. Listen, we're talking about somebody in shape, though, man.
Well, Barry DeMay holding up the end, and he was another fantastic, But going back to that, as far as how you felt, was that, looking back, and I know I asked you this question earlier, if you were to do anything differently, would you get in shape differently? Maybe not feel so bad, but still get in as good a shape based upon what you know now?
No, not really. No.
There's no way around that.
No
way around.
I wish I could tell you differently. No. I would do the same thing today. I will tell you, though, one of the things I think hurts bodybuilders, and it hurt me, I'll speak for myself, as the transition of the bodybuilding changed from more the aesthetic total conditioning, when Dorian came in around 95, 96, I guess it was. Before that, but that's when Ronnie came in and started getting bigger and bigger, and everyone thought they was going to have to get bigger. You increase your chemical usage, right? Let's just be honest about it. And I was always one to pride myself, Michael, on doing very little chemicals. I mean, little. And I would have never changed. If I could have done anything, I would have stuck to my guns and never changed the chemical aspect of things. And I was still, because that's what changed my look. It wasn't the diet, it was the chemicals.
We're going to get into that really well about the guy who approached you in the airport and how you got bigger. Yeah. We'll get to that, but let me just attend to Frank Ferry. Michael had just tuned in. Wow, Porter Cottrell. Porter is a friend of one of my best friends, Bill Nylon, NPC judge, Neylon. Frank's a great guy. Frank Ferry is 72 and he's lost like 100 pounds and he wins shows now and he's like a rock.
Good for him, man.
Oh man, he's taking everybody. Taking everybody to school. Here's John Defendis' pal. I think John might have sent Joe Cristiano here in his absence as his emissary. One of the best flex covers was Porter with the fire truck in the background. Yeah, I was going to put. Were you married at the time or not?
No. And that cover was an accident. You know that.
No.
It was Chris Lund, greatest photographer in the world. Well, there's a lot of great ones, but I love Chris. I don't know if you ever got a chance to meet Chris Lund. No. But anyway, I was getting ready to do the Chicago for the second time. And Chris, you don't want to do crap, Michael, when you're getting ready to compete. So it's a Friday night, and I'm going to compete Saturday. They do 2 rounds. And Chris calls me up, and in his English accent, and said, Porter, you got to do me a favor. And I said, well, what's that, Chris? He goes, we gotta get a good photo shoot at a firehouse. I said, Chris, I'm putting protein on. You remember that, Michael? I'm putting protein on. I don't want to go do a photo shoot. He goes, Porter, just one fantastic shot.
Porter, no, I've got to stop you. Do you remember QT?
Yeah.
Quick tan?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Awesome.
See, these guys, they've got the spray tan now.
Yeah. Oh,
the thing with QT, if you live in the communist confines of Connecticut, there's never any sun, so you only use QT. Yeah. Everybody looks orange like a lobster, but it's okay because that's how everyone looks.
That's how everyone looks. But anyway, make a long story short, man, I said, okay, let's do it. We ran real quick down to a Chicago firehouse, spent about 20 minutes, and that photo come up.
That's that's iconic. I was going to use that, but I think I have before. Gary Miller, great member, great talk, War and Peace. Porter is always in sick shape. Fantastic interview. Holy moly, Porter Cottrell. I told you they couldn't wait. I feel very weak. You guys, I almost lost them tonight because of my own befuddlement. But we came through. Frank Ferry, I feel very weak and nauseous just before every show. It's like being totally drained. But Frank, you know that's necessary. That's why you win. Mm-hmm. And finally, Lance, very good friend of mine, Lance Stranahan, great bodybuilder from back in our day. We're all the same. Mm-hmm. I remember this stuff called Dioderm.
Dioderm. Dioderm. I remember that.
Protan, Dioderm, QT, Lance bed. There was no protectants back then, so you got burned.
Yeah.
Plus,
listen. Michael, I swear to you with all my heart, the number one thing I hate about competing, or hated about competing, was sitting there and letting my girlfriend paint me with protein, 3 or 4 coats. I hated it.
But Porter, you allowed her to do that.
I know.
You gave her that gift.
Yeah, she did a good job too. So it was great.
A quick little departure. How all your brothers in the fire department, did they support you? Were they enthused about your efforts, or put off, or what was the deal with that?
My mom used to ask me multiple times, why do you got to do what you do? Because, why can't you just be normal? And I didn't know how to be normal. I guess you could say, Michael, they supported me in the best way they knew how. But I was I was the odd duckling, if you will, of the family, because, they had a certain lifestyle and I had a total opposite lifestyle. And to this day, I live the same lifestyle. My brothers are all different, but we're very close. I love them dearly. And as supportive as they could be. How about that?
It's important, the people you're around all the time.
It really makes a world of difference. And honestly, especially if someone who is married or has a girlfriend, if they are not supportive of what you're achieving or trying to achieve,
never work.
It will never, absolutely spot on, Michael. It will never work.
Well, if it does work, as far as being a champion, something else is going to erode the relationship, the family. Falter, when I grew up at home, until I went away to college, I remember my father yelling, "When is he going to get off this and get on regular food?" And I'd be thinking, never. But there was, because I have a big family and they're eating, Italian food, and I have to eat water packed tuna from a can and some salad and a potato every third day. And it's never good when you're 17 and you're already suffering from orthostatic hypotension, getting up from bed and almost passing out.
Are you serious?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, listen, we were like, the Frank Zane thing, back then contest I won, I was 180, 6 foot tall because I was ripped, but you could do that back then. But you had to be like the Fendus's guys, Lance will tell you, down in Florida, they were noted for being, if you're not ripped to as low as humanly possible, you ain't gonna be hanging with those guys. But again, even like Dorian said, for him to do that, he did sacrifice a little size. So you go back to, is this bodybuilding or are you tearing too much down? And that's the fine line of it right there.
Well, so it's borderline unhealthy all the way around.
No, that's correct. It's definitely, like Romano says, they talk about natural bodybuilding, but Frank says, so true, Porter, my wife is 100% behind me when I compete. And that's true. She's a good lady, Frank.
Absolutely.
What was I just saying? Do you know what tack that was on just now?
You were talking about a friend of yours. I lost my train of thought on that.
I only have 2. So
that's okay. That's pretty good. What we were basically talking about is. Well,
we can go on. It's
okay. We're talking about something about conditioning and the sacrifices that you make and being healthy and unhealthy.
I got to keep addressing our people here because they're all going to be calling you. One of my best, Carmen Parrish. Carmen, why are you surprised that I got Porter Cottrell? I don't have any cred. We only get the best here, the best. Right. Yes, he is. She says she loves and misses you, Porter. Mark says hello also. Carmen Parrish. Do you know who? Mark?
Yep.
And Frank.
And Mark. Yeah, Mark. Tell everyone. Make sure everyone knows that I said hi, and I really appreciate every nice compliment.
You heard that, Carmen. You competed, didn't you? You could type some more in there, and we'll address it. So, Porter, moving on. Before we get into the pros, we really want to talk about your business now and longevity, and how the things you experience with your health, and how you employ the tenets that you practice to your charges, the people you help to keep them young. Mm-hmm. But you were an amateur. You hit the Continental. You won that. You had a couple of gaps. Did anybody help you coming up? Anybody who really mentored you? You learned on your own.
No, there was a guy that turned me in the right direction, and his name was Steve Constance, and I never will forget it. Real quickly, I was getting ready to compete in my first show. I had no clue what I was doing, and I went to him and I said, "Hey, Steve."
Was that the Mr. Louisville?
Yes, and Steve was the best of a tri-state bodybuilder around. I was in awe, and I remember going to Steve, and as nervous as can be, because I was only 20-something years old. And I said, "Steve, I get all these conflicting opinions of what to do, what not to do. What would you suggest, or can you give me some advice moving forward in me getting ready to compete?" And he just simply said, "Porter, no one will ever know your physique like you do. The best thing you can do is pay attention to what works, what doesn't work, educate yourself, and you'll never go wrong." And I did. That's when I used to go and, fake and, buy a book, go home and read it, keep it real neat, take it back, all the above. That's when I started my education in bodybuilding.
I used to say I was very good at taking the actor out of chiropractor. So, if you have a patient and they're in a lot of pain, I've got my own problems. You can't let them see your problems. They'll lose confidence. So you've got to be able to separate. Had you attended a contest before you competed to at least see what was going on, or you just showed up and that was it?
No, I went to my first contest was the Mr. U of L, University of Louisville, the Mr. U of L. I was in total awe. I never will forget it. And that was really the catalyst, really, to said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
That's pretty invigorating. Isn't it like electrifying in energy when you go and you see that for the first time?
Oh, I was on top of the world, and I hadn't even, I was still about maybe 165 pounds.
Yeah. When you go the first time you go and you see these people with very little clothes on, and they go under the light and they flex, and people, because it's very hard to do that and look good.
I know.
It's just like an awakening, isn't it?
And they look so massive.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you see them off stage, you thought, oh my gosh, that guy's not that big at all. So anyway, yeah.
I never had the massive part, but people would say I didn't look big at all. So I didn't have the.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah, bro, you're 186 foot tall.
Yeah, no, I self-face. Yeah, I got what I wanted out of bodybuilding. I get to talk to you right now. It's led me to you.
Well, I appreciate it.
This is a great moment in my life right now, because I read about you for years, and a lot of our people watching, we really appreciate that. I'm not the type to be envious, because I like to see someone who's really exceeding themselves, because it tells me that that's a human. I'm a human. I could plug myself in and at least try to do that. So it shows you what could be. And that to me, I'm glad you exist. That's all I can say about that.
Well, I always tell people, you don't never know who you're walking around that has this incredible genetic potential that they possess, but they haven't unlocked the deadbolts of the door to see what their genetic potential is. So they might be walking around could be one of the most incredible physiques in the world, but they don't know it because they don't put all the elements together. I look at bodybuilding and staying in shape as a fascinating thing. And, I'm just a guy like Dorian, Kevin. We were just built a little bit different, and we were genetically gifted in a certain way. And that's it. But there's people out there probably just walking around that are so much more gifted than even us.
I like to always say, there's probably a guy in Missouri baling hay, and he's jacked to the roof, and he doesn't even know it.
He goes and eats a bologna sandwich and freaking potato chips for lunch. Yeah. But
I had bologna today.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
I used to love bologna.
Yeah, I love it.
When I was growing up, oh my God, bologna and cheese sandwich. And listen, by the way, I thought I was going to get big when I ate that,
You told me, our first interview, you were telling me you used to eat bologna sandwiches, and then you realized it wasn't working for you.
No, I really had no clue. Listen to me. I would open up cans of corn, I would open up cans of corn and eat the corn. I had no, and you remember Rocky by chance, Michael?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure everyone remembers Rocky, and he did the raw eggs.
Yeah.
I used to go home and gut down the raw eggs with some milk. How terrible was that? You know,
Well, I'll tell you what,
I had no clue.
I've got Rayhan Jalali coming on here. He's actually the guy who trains Stallone. He's going to be on next week. I'm going to ask him what he does. You know, what Stallone real. We're going to find out if that egg stuff is the real deal.
Yeah, I can't.
You got Frank Berry. My first show, I was scared to hell. Mick Souza, a great bodybuilder, was with me, and Mick said you could do it. He said, yes, you can. Just look at me, nobody else. So, you know, you did very well. And then when did you know you can go into the junior nationals? That's a big show.
Well, as soon as I won the Continental USA and I got out of drill school in the fire department, I set my sights on the junior nationals, and I devoted myself for the 12 weeks and got ready for it. And I just was in the right place, Michael, at the right time with the right physique, and I was very blessed to win the junior nationals in the first try.
What did Weeder scoop you up at that point? How does that work? I always like to ask that.
No, but let me tell you something. People don't realize the higher you get, I'm sure many people do, but the higher you get, it becomes something different. You know, it's not just about your physique. It's how you carry yourself. It's how do you market yourself and the overall package. Yeah. So I think it's a myriad of different things that transpires moving up the ladder. And I started marketing myself after I won the junior nationals. I would send photos out to all the promoters trying to get my name out there. And I remember they would bring me in. I wouldn't make one dime, but I would sell photos, sometimes not even selling a photo. And I was trying to market myself to move up the ladder because I knew name recognition and being out there in the light will help you be more noticed when you've got 20 guys on stage that are incredible. And all of a sudden, you got Jim Mannion, which I loved dearly. I really like Jim a lot. And all the other judges, if you develop a relationship and develop a certain type of persona about yourself, then they'll give you a look. You know what I'm saying?
I want to say two things. I'm not going to patronize you, but you're a genuinely nice guy. And yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've talked to almost anybody on these shows that I do. And sometimes people will suggest someone. It ties into the marketing. And I'll tell them very tacitly, I don't speak ill of anyone, but I kind of suggest that, that guy's not really a very nice guy. And what you do, when you don't reach out to fans, or you don't go the extra mile, or you don't send those pictures out, you're not getting hired. Because guess what? Weeder back in the old days, he'd pay guys $50 to go on the cover. They get mad. He goes, look, I got a line of guys that'll do it for free. So yeah, you're fantastic, but they could probably find someone who's close and they could still use him. Now, as far as talking to Troy Zucolato, a real businessman, probably one of the most successful guys outside of bodybuilding, who was, formerly a bodybuilder. He said when he won, like you did, he won the nationals.
I remember that. I was there.
Yeah, he sat down, and because nobody was knocking on his door at all, and he was kind of surprised. So he took, piles of pictures, autographed pictures. He sent, I don't know, thousands of them out to the promoters everywhere. He got the NPC list, every state. There were like 300 promoters, just pounded away. And he was busy all the time because of that. But it took a lot of, you can't just say, hey, look, this is how I look. That's just opening up the door.
It's like the old phrase that build it and they will come. No, that's not how it works. You have to go after it. You have to sell yourself.
Porter, in a nutshell, because there's a lot of guys now, and a lot of them are my friends, and they're younger guys, and they look fantastic. And they really have a hard time articulating what they want to do for two reasons. One is they're kind of embarrassed to say they want to be an actor or something. Or the second one, Jürgen Gurr, hello from Germany, hello. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but yeah, you're a good guy. Thanks, Jürgen. What was I saying? As far as what would you suggest to these guys to do? One guy just won. One guy actually just won his class in the nationals this year. He became an IFBB pro. Well, I mean, what would you say that guys like that in that bracket should do? Like I asked you, would you do things differently? What would you suggest to these guys?
Well, number one, if you can realize when you're getting at that level, you're starting to delve into the business side of bodybuilding. It's business.
Yes.
So let me tell you, your reputation, your persona of how people perceive you, how you act, the way you handle yourself, all this goes into play to making that physique look better. You can have an incredible physique, the best in the world, but if you don't have that certain personality that you gravitate toward people and people gravitate towards you, I think it makes it very difficult. Market yourself like Troy did, like I did, and you're going to get a lot of doors slammed on you, a lot of no's, but you might get a couple of yeses. And on those yeses, you'll build a reputation by being the best that you can be, not only as your physique, but the person that you are toward the fans, toward the promoter, and just people that come in your midst. Does that make sense?
I was talking to Denise tonight about business. Not that she wants to hear it, but she's in my line of vocality, so she gets to hear it. But I said, she goes, you give so much, she said to me, which was flattering. I said, she goes, well, how do you make money doing it? I go, well, always give more than you get. But if you do that on a wide enough berth, a wide enough expanse, you get more clients, patients, prospects, members, whatever you want to call them. And then they give back enough to you where you amass an appreciable amount of whatever to make it worthwhile what you're doing, because it's got to be, you have to make money. Some people are very sheepish. They're embarrassed to make money. I'm like, well, there's a funny rule in my state. When you go to pay for the mortgage and food, they want money, lots of it. So, and people they want to pay you. They want to pay a guy like you. If you're offering, you obviously offer something. They came to see you. They're visiting tonight. We got a lot of people on here. They see value. So people will pay for what they value. Your services. Somebody comes up to you and they're kind of equivocating. I say this all. I was talking to John Torelli about this. Porter, you're fantastic. I'm thinking about it. I'm not even going to say they don't value your services. They don't value. They should say yes, 100%. I've got to get some of what you got because I'm important. But they sell themselves short. Do you see that?
Oh, all the time. Well, only thing I can share. Anyone. First of all, I would never want to be coming up in the sport of bodybuilding today because it's just a different world.
We'll get into why in a while.
Yeah, but if you are, just always remember, this is just me talking, okay? I knew, I've told you this before probably, Michael, but I knew one day bodybuilding, Porter Cottrell, the bodybuilder, would be no longer, but I wanted people to remember me as the person. And if you can focus on being the very best you can toward your people you come in contact with, even when you're not feeling great doing a show, and you put yourself out there and you market yourself, you can be a so-so bodybuilder and still be successful.
Well, I'm going to tell you something right now, just from the comments we're getting, you've done that. And I'm going to tell you another thing that I've learned and I've seen. In the sands of time, as they do sift away, and you're looking back over the cooling embers of your life, those people you did affect, I got to write that down, man. That's pretty good. Those people you've affected, they will remember you not for the bulging of your biceps, but they'll remember you for how you made them feel. Well, think about like somebody who said something. I had a patient, I use this story, and I'm going to get to some of these comments for you. They're for you. A lady comes in, she's crying, and it happens. I go in the room. Are you okay? What's going on? So she's crying, and she said, it's my birthday. My husband gave me a gift. It was wrapped. He left. I opened it. It was a wrench. Forgive me, but this is what, and the note said, fix the toilet, bitch. So just think about the loveless life that person lives and how she always felt.
Is that for real?
Oh, that's for real. And I'm going to tell you, me thinking back to that, it's a guttural response. I get angry thinking of that. So emotions and how you imprint yourself upon a person. Now you open the door through bodybuilding. That's why they're coming to see it. You want to be successful like you've been, go beyond that. Because if these guys in business, they got their cards with, them winning the show, Mr. USA or whatever. And believe me, I'm not busting on them because I couldn't win anything. I won to Mr. Connecticut on a very weak year. So I'll based on that. But hey, a win is a win.
That's good. That's okay. Exactly right.
But, they have a card and it's a picture of them doing this. I'm like, well, how about having one of your weight loss clients before and after? Because they only care about them. They like you, but it's always this WIIFM. What's in it for me? Right. Now, let me read a few of these.
Go ahead.
Porter, what's the most difficult show you've ever done? I'm sure the Olympia. I'm going to go through these and then we can go over them. Both you and Porter are genuine. Mark Sangiuliano and I learned from the best. Okay, I got that name right?
Yeah, you said it good. That's good.
Well, he's one of mine. He's in Italian, so I think.
He's one of the greatest guys in the world.
Which pro made the most improvement in the shortest period of time? I'll keep track of these. What's the most difficult show you've ever done? I'm sure the Olympia is one of them. Frank White is always very loyal. Great show. Thanks, Frank. Carmen Parrish, Porter once told me that it's difficult to be your own brand, but that's very pointed because you should always be your brand. You know, whatever you're selling, you better be walking that walk. It's very important. And finally, our good friend Lance. I love Lance. He's a great guy. If Porter wouldn't mind, and Lance, he'll do this towards the end, could he briefly summarize what he does now in terms of diet, low carbs, medium or higher carbs, protein, how many days per week does he train? Does he do TRT, etc.? Class act.
Sure.
Frank White, yes, class act. Porter is, nailed it. Great interview, Dr. Dusa. Although when you spell my name like that, Steve, that means we're going to go outside and fight. No, I'm only kidding. Thank you. So Porter, you know, you get what was your toughest show that you ever went in? What was the one where you really, because listen, you were right up there. You came close to copying the Olympia.
The toughest show I ever, they were all difficult, to be honest with you.
Well, let me ask you this, since they were
all pretty.
There's one that's not, that doesn't stick out. Because relatively speaking, it seems like, and I know there's reasons and we'll get to them, but you bowed out when you were still at your crest. But when you take fifth in the Olympia, don't you start thinking, hey, man, I could win this? So did you ever think that? And did you ever think of pursuing that or no?
No, I never thought like that because I was a realist at the same time. And I was just blessed to be on the Olympia stage. I will tell you the most difficult thing that ever transpired with me in bodybuilding, the most difficult. And it was a life-changing moment. And it was the 95 Mr. Olympia where, and remember me talking about this, Michael, where I was on the first round. I was in great shape. It's best I've ever been, I guess.
Porter, where was this one held? Was this Chicago?
No, it was in Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta, okay.
Yeah, and I didn't compete that year because I wanted to save it for the Mr. Olympia. And I remember being on the first round, and you know how they first do an initial call outs. Everything's fine. I was called out maybe the third round, second round, fourth round, and everything's great. But I remember doing my comparisons, and then I go back to the line, and then something rushed over me that was so powerful, man. This is the most pivotal moment of my bodybuilding career. That I got so much fear inside my body right
on stage.
Yeah, and the fear was not fear of being on stage. I knew I was in shape, but it was the fear of not doing well. Think about what I'm going to say to you. It's the fear of not doing well. And I remember I got so fearful. I walked off stage.
Without you weren't solicited to walk off stage. You just walked off stage.
And I faked an injury.
Wow.
To not compete because I was so fearful of not doing well.
This was 95?
Yep.
Okay.
And it was the turning point of my bodybuilding career.
What was the culmination of that? Because you did compete after that.
What made that transpire? Is that what you're asking me?
Well, you know, you did that, and were you called out on it? Like, did the Amelia come down on you?
Wayne and Jim and them were always.
Like, did they want to see like a doctor's note or what's going on?
Nope. And I remember going home, flying back home, and I did my photos for the year and everything. And you know, they never said a word, just made sure I was okay. They were always super good to me. Joe was really good to me. Joe called me, Joe Weider, and. No, but I'm just going to tell you how I feel. I do think that I was punished a little bit the next time I competed.
By the powers that be. You think so?
I believe so.
Oh, that's within the realm of believability by far.
Yeah. I can't say that for sure, though. Okay.
No, of course not. You're just opening that as a potential. I want to ask you this, because you're always very forthright, and I really appreciate that. And I am too, and that's probably why some people want to break me in two. I actually get those types of threats sometimes. That's why I'm making friends with all these gigantic pros. Maybe they'll just form a circle.
Yeah, it protects you.
Who knows? Yeah. When you were after you did that, because you seem like a man of high integrity, faith. You know, you've got a young son that you put before everything. You help people. I've been reading your stuff. You chose vocations where you were always interacting and lifting others. So, you know, it speaks a lot, but doing that for whatever reason, when you were laying there and you were alone with yourself at night and in the dark recesses of your mind, what was your feelings about doing that? Because you know, it wasn't true, I guess.
Well, it's surreal. It's surreal because here you worked all year to be the very best you can and step on the Mr. Olympia stage, and you walked off stage just because of the fear of not doing well. Think about that.
Was there anything going on in your life at that time? Nothing. So nothing extraordinary that would pull you out of, you know, the focus and the concentration.
No. And you know, the only thing that saves me, if you will, Michael, I believe in my heart, everything happens for a reason. I really truly believe that. And I guess there was a lesson for me to learn. But I do realize, you know, even with the coronavirus and stuff, I noticed with people, fear is a very powerful thing, and it can get a hold of you. And it was a life's lesson, and maybe it was meant to happen. Maybe the lesson was supposed to be there, and I haven't discovered what the lesson is as yet. But I don't allow myself to feel fear any longer. I can tell you that over anything, to be honest with you, other than something happening to my son. I mean, I've always asked God, not to let anything happen to him. And more importantly, I always ask him, don't let anything happen to me until I can see that he's grown and self-sufficient.
Porter, let me ask you a question. What makes you free? What gives you freedom and peace? And if you've even attained that, because whether people know it or not, those are the two things they're looking for.
Freedom. I don't know if I can. I'm too fearful to, go back to the thing. I don't want to feel free, because I think when you're too free, you let your guard down. And I think in order to be your very best, you have to be aware of your surroundings and keep your guard somewhat up. I can tell you what gives me solace is working with my clients, helping people become better. I really enjoy that with all my heart. And that's why I never feel like I'm really at work. I'm always just hanging out with my friends. And that's where my comfort.
That statement alone is so cool. I don't feel like I'm at work. It's like I'm hanging out with my friends. You know, if you had the wrong boss, and you don't, but if you have the wrong boss and he heard you say that, say, "Oh, you're having that much fun? Well, you don't need to get paid."
Yeah. But I love it, and that's where I'm really comfortable in working. I'm kind of a workaholic, and my only freedom, you want to know the true freedom I get, and I got it when I was in my bodybuilding career.
I do want to know. Yes.
My true freedom. You're going to laugh at this when I tell you this. Is for me, I'm a loner, but I love people. I'm introverted and extroverted at the same time. To go to a movie by myself is my true freedom. Just to be straight with you. It's where I can really shut down and be with me. Yeah, it saved my bodybuilding career. You know, during my bodybuilding career, I love going to movies.
Well, let me ask you this. Is one of the things that you liked about bodybuilding, because my good friend Lance, if Lance had come under the auspices of John Defenders, who has joined us here, and he says, Porter, a great champion. Well, I'll get back to Lance in a second. Wayne Lynch, great show. Carmen Parrish, this is a wonderful gift today to see this interview. Thank you both. Carmen, I'm in trouble because I didn't give a gift to Denise today, and I gave one to you, so you're getting me in trouble here. Hanging with friends equals solace. Scott Canetty, great bodybuilder, just blew out his leg bad. Porter, it's Scott Canetty. Blast from the 90s, training with Bill Chapman and hanging out with you. It has been a long time.
Bill Chapman. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Have not seen big Bill Chapman for years. Great seeing you on here with Doc. Scott, we're going to get you on here, man, because you're one of those Midwest icons, man. I can't even go to the Midwest. I'm not allowed in your state anymore. One of the best to ever do it. Thank you, Mike, for bringing another bodybuilding icon on for a fantastic interview. Hey, share this, guys, so more people can see Porter, because we're going to be giving you some contact information towards the end. Because he can help a lot of people, probably not everyone, but it doesn't have to be everyone. So going back to this, so you're doing things alone, solitary. Well, going back to Lance could have been probably one of those guys always in the magazine, and he didn't want to join John Defendis and his crew down in Florida because he wanted to do it on his own. He didn't like the team aspect. He wanted to either get all the accolades for the win or, be accountable for not winning. Does that resonate with you at all?
Well, that's what I loved about bodybuilding. It's you against yourself. You're the captain, you're the team, you're everything.
Right.
I love that, but let me tell you something. What I loved about bodybuilding, and I love to listen to me. I remember traveling the world with some of these incredible bodybuilders, and they were really great people. We had a great time. It was an incredible experience. Tom Prince just messaged me on Facebook the other day and was talking about a situation that happened at 90 Champions. And I remember we had some great great times, and we would pal around and do things, and when we weren't competing. But what I loved about bodybuilding more
Porter,
than
let me stop you there, because there's a question I want to ask you about that, and people miss out on this all the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you were having those great times, did you realize they were great when you were in them?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, isn't that something?
You know, I told Tom, I said, we didn't realize that how special those moments really were. I mean,
that's a huge point.
It was it's a regret. I wish I would have really, truly taken time to enjoy what was transpiring in my life. And you remember we was chatting earlier before we got on, and that's where, when I tell you that I wish I had the same level of maturity then as I do now, because I would have seen that, and I would have taken time to enjoy the process and the camaraderie that we had with each other as competitors.
Here's an even better question for me to ask one of the best in human history. If you could leverage all of the things you have learned to this point, because you've accrued much more knowledge, obviously, to this point from when you last competed, and you could leverage that and use it back when you were training, would you have been a far better bodybuilder in any way?
Oh, absolutely.
So you think that you could have made improvements upon
there is no doubt.
In what way?
Well, if I had a level of maturity, then I wouldn't have, there was times that, okay, I'll tell you, for 3 or 4 years in my bodybuilding career, I had an eating disorder. And there's different forms of bulimia, but I would not purge per se, Michael, but I would eat so much gorging that I would purge naturally, and then I would clean up my mess and go back and eat. Well, I wouldn't have dealt with those type of things, and I think that affected my bodybuilding career in certain aspects in a negative way. Number one, I would have had a better relationship with food back then. Which would have made my bodybuilding better in the off season, because really the off season is where you make those fundamental changes. And then, the artistry comes in when you're preparing for the show. So that would have been much better for me as being a bodybuilder. And, I've been a little bit smarter about the latter part of the drug usage.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. As far as relationships, what did bodybuilding do for your relationships? Did they nurture them? Did it nurture your relationships, or was it a destructive force to your relationships, or was it kind of in the middle?
It was a little bit. I'm normally a really easygoing guy, and I love, honestly, I like being kind to people. It's just me. I don't like to be mean. Not that I'm not in a bad mood sometimes.
I could never see you getting mad.
I very seldom get mad. I don't really get mad, and I never want to hurt anyone. But I remember when I retired from bodybuilding, I didn't realize until I got off the chemicals, even though I didn't take a lot, Michael, I didn't realize how much they affected me emotionally and through my mood. And I remember going to people, and apologizing to them and said, hey, look, I'm sorry if I ever was unkind to you or treated you poorly when I was bodybuilding. It was not intentional, because that's, how big of a hold it had on me. But if I had the level of maturity back then as I have now, I wouldn't have done that. I've been able to control myself a little bit better. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and I think it's good, and it's telling that you went back and kind of, mopped up those spots where you thought you might have.
I remember a couple times I was like, why did I do that?
Let me just read a few more of these. A great champion. It is much the same for me, Porter. Training my folks is hanging out with my friends, and they are all very dear to me. John Defendis, that's because people like Porter and I are always looking at the next goal. That's right, John. That's why you've gone far beyond just winning the USA in '88. Did you ever stand next to John? I think it was a little before you. Maybe.
No, but John and I did an appearance. I don't know if John remembers. I've got a couple of photos, actually. It's on my Facebook page. And we did an appearance together in Miami. It might have been Miami. It was somewhere in Florida. And I remember that's when John and I hung out for the day. I don't know if
was it a guest posing at a show, or was it?
It was like an expo.
Oh, okay.
It was an expo.
Right. And Scotty Canity, Porter told me a story of how he tried to revive Momo. We're going to talk about that, Scott, because that's going to tie into, I've got this lattice that I follow. As much as I jump around, we try to, we want to provide value to everyone. And I like to get a little deeper than just, how many grams of protein do you do? I mean, I interviewed Jack Neary. I don't know if you remember the writer Jack Neary from the 70s. He was Weeder's main writer. and a really colorful, interesting guy. And I thought he was worthwhile to interview, and he was. And he said Weider always wanted him to, or Rick Wayne wanted him to interview people about sets and reps. And he said that was boring. I wanted to do like human interest stories like we're doing now, because, you know, we already know you're a fantastic bodybuilder. And how many ways can you describe curling a dumbbell? I mean, you know, so we go into the whys and the wherefores. I got something in the way here. Hold on. I just want to read one more, then we'll go on.
No, you're fine.
He told you a story of how he tried to revive Momo, and then he had heart failure on the Euro Grand Prix. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We'll get to that real soon. So going back to this, so Solitude training, 95 Olympia, you kind of jettisoned that, but you came back. 96 Arnold Classic 8th, San Jose Pro Invitational 10th. Then he started doing better. 98, he took a year off. Night of the Champion 6th, Toronto Pro 4th, and then 99, your last year, you ended up with the Toronto Pro IFBB 3rd. So you obviously still had it in you, you know, to excel. But what happened at that point where you said that's enough?
It was 4 weeks before the Mr. Olympia, and I remember it well. And I was ready, and I was just kind of, you know, going through the process. And I'd hurt my wrist a couple of weeks prior, nothing major, but I remember being getting up late to do cardio. And I got up. You know how you stand up to put on your socks, you know. So I stood up against the dryer, brought my leg up real quick, and I just got up real quick, and I put a pair of socks on, and I tore my hamstring.
Wow.
And I mean, I would have been fine, but I was already battling. I was 24 pounds, ready for the Mr. Olympia. It was too big. I didn't feel, you know how I told you earlier, I always felt like I was an artist. You know, and I just felt like I was a bodybuilder, you know, and I didn't like my physique, and something hit me. I said, I'm done.
Hey, Porter, what's your height?
5'7.5", 5'7",
okay.
5'7.5".
Is this the point where this fellow walked up to you in the air? Because, you know, your interview was very striking several years ago, and I remember most of it, and I didn't review it. I probably should have, but this guy walked up to you, and he said something to the effect of, let me just read Jürgen Gurr here. He's all the way from Germany. Porter, I see you at FIBO in the 90 in Essen, and you look so great. Symmetry, mass, all was perfect, perfect body. I think in this time you are a favorite for the first 6 places at the Olympia or better. He was right up there, Jürgen. But the guy walked up to you in the airport. You know, he recognized you. He says, Porter, I'm a big fan, but what are you doing to yourself? And it was kind of like a realization at that point where you got away from the artistry and the symmetry and, you know, for want of a better, you know, the Frank Zane, Ben Fado type of look. And you were trying to, you know, go against Yates, and you didn't feel well mentally or physically, right? Is that what was happening?
Yeah. And that was 99. That was right after the Night of Champions, and we were in the airport. And it was like, you know, if you don't see it, you're not in it. You don't see it. But now I can look back at photos now and look at it. Yeah, it was a wake-up call for me. And then from that point on, you know, I thought, you know, and I got to be honest with you, another catalyst that made me, or something that really hit me that I noticed I was doing, I was thinking about doing more chemicals to get bigger. And I didn't want to do drugs anymore. I remember I didn't want to do drugs anymore. And I remember almost getting to that point of doing a different type of chemical. And so it was everything at one time that really just, almost like it popped the pimple. It's done.
Porter, if I may ask, was there a specific panoply or protocol you'd follow for anabolics? Like, you know, was there certain, you know, back then, obviously now there's a world of different stuff, but, you know, back then it was more Primobolan, Deca, Anavar, Dianabol, testosterone. You know, there's maybe
you want me to tell you what I got?
No, absolutely.
Hold up. I'll tell you exactly.
And listen, let me just stop you. We do not endorse drug use here.
No, not at all.
And we don't, since I'm working under my license, we're not giving advice either, ever. We disseminate information. There's a difference. And Rick Collins is a guest next week. He's a lawyer, steroid lawyer, and he'll agree because he probably told me that. I'm sorry.
Listen, I think it's important to be open and honest with people.
Yeah. Oh God, please.
Listen to me. This is really the truth. And people that know me know that I didn't take a lot of chemicals. Lee Priest is another one that doesn't take a lot of chemicals. But that being said, it cost me $400 in chemicals to get ready for my first Mr. Olympia. And the only thing I used, this is for real, I used 50 milligrams 3 days a week, or 3 days a week of Winstrol. I used
was that oral or injectable?
Injectable.
Okay.
Yeah. And I used Masteron, 50-50 on Masteron twice a week. and I took albuterol the last 6 weeks. That's
Wow,
it.
that's it.
That's it.
Unbelievable.
That was it.
$400. And you know, you hear about guys. I interviewed Jerry Brainham, and he told me there are guys, forgive my naivety, but they take 50 units of growth hormone a day. Now, number one, where the hell do they get the money for that?
It's
Because
insane.
that's got to be, I can't even imagine how much it is.
Well,
And you know, you recommend it is what, 2 to 4 or something to that effect?
the most of growth hormone I ever did, I would only do it to last, because it was very expensive when I did it. I would only do it to last 4 to 5 weeks. And the most I would ever take, and I didn't do it every single show, but the most I would take, it would be 2.5 units a night before I went to bed. But let me tell you a real short story. I remember we were in Finland, my first Mr. Olympia, and we were riding in a bus after the show. And then I think Paul Dillett placed 4th or 5th. He made $15,000 or $20,000, whatever he made. And he and his girlfriend get into this argument about the money he made.
This is after the show.
Yeah, and I think he made 15. And she says to him, basically, I'm paraphrasing, of course, well, what's it matter, Paul? You spent $15,000 on chemicals or drugs to get ready for this show. You're not even breaking even.
15 grand for one show?
Yep.
And this was back in what?
It was 92.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah, you know, listen, I've heard that. I hear guys, you know, a quick Gary Stridham story, because I was the chiropractor for the WBF.
Oh, really? I didn't know
that.
Yeah,
many years. Well, McMahon came up to me in the gym and said, "Hey, you the chiropractor?" I go, "Yeah, I was right out of school." He goes, "You want to be the doctor for the, you know, for the athletes, you know, Zucolato?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." I mean, he never paid me, but I didn't care. You know, it would have been nice if he did.
Yeah.
You know, hard driving business.
Good experience, though.
That's why he's that's why he's a billionaire. But Stridham was on an exercise bike at Powerhouse. It was Gold Gym at the time in New Haven. And he's just pumping away, and he's in the middle of eating an entire box of PR bar protein bars. So I had to go up to him, and I didn't work on him. He was one of the few. He didn't want to be touched. I said, you know, may I ask, why are you eating while working out? He goes, mate, you know, he's got the English accent. He goes, I'm on so many chemicals that if I'm not eating almost constantly, and this is what he told me, my body will just devour itself. So, you know, as far as level, I mean, I've heard guys spending 50, 100,000 a year on the stuff, and you know, what kind of, you know, it's not a good business plan. Let me put it to you that way. So you know, you're at that point, you got out, and you told me some very interesting stuff about how you felt once you got off and what happened to your natural bodily testosterone.
Well, through the aggravation of bodybuilding, I was so done with it. It was so silly for me to do this, and it was detrimental to my health and well-being, to be honest with you. I got off cold turkey. I quit. Instead of doing something to bring back my LH and FSH, I did nothing. And man, let me tell you something. For about 2 years, I struggled. And I remember 6 months into my being off of everything and quitting everything, I was really struggling. And I go to an endocrinologist here, and he does my levels. And my total testosterone 6 months later, my total now, Michael, you know, total means really nothing. It's a free that means the most important. My total was only 60.
Wow.
60. And you know what? This is how they don't have any clue what they're doing when it comes to, you know, testosterone replacement.
They still don't.
They haven't a clue. And he goes, well, let me give you 100 milligrams a week until yours comes back. Well, it only takes 25 milligrams of injectable testosterone to shut your LH and FSH. And I thought, well, hold up, it's going to put me back at square one. So make a long story short, it wasn't until I went to a doctor by the name of
wait, this was an endocrinologist?
Yes.
Because they're usually, you know, it's funny, around here,
had no clue.
The medical doctors, listen, I love everyone, but when it comes to that, they're almost next to worthless. But when I use a couple of different endocrinologists, you know, they know the deal. I have good luck with them. So that's kind of surprising. I mean, where do you turn when the endocrinologist doesn't know what he's doing?
Well, I was lost. So, but about 2 months later, and I'm still struggling terribly. Let me say terribly. And I got a hold of a doctor from Houston called Dr. Michael Scally. And I knew that a couple other pros went there, and I flew all the way to Houston, and he is the one that got me back on track. And then after that, I finally got, believe it or not, after being on chemicals for 19 years on and off, I was able to bring back my endocrine system, and I was functioning at a normal level with absolutely nothing. And sure, did I hamper or affect my Leydig cells to a certain degree? Absolutely, I did. But my LH and FSH was screaming. So, but point being, I was able to function for about 10 years. And then once I had once I had my son, I knew I was in andropause. I knew it. And I went and got my levels checked. And from that point on, I started, testosterone replacement. And it's a very important part of life. And if I wonder where I would be today, I'd probably still be in andropause if it wasn't for the drugs. But at what point would I have gone into andropause if I hadn't used any chemicals in my lifetime?
Porter, when you were competing, would you do regular blood panels?
Yes. But let me just tell you this. As a pro and as a person, trying to achieve certain goals in the bodybuilding world, you really don't come off much. No. And so I never did anything, Michael, to bring back my LH and FSH back. And I never let my system come back. I wish I would have taken, 15 to 20 weeks and used a combination of Clomid and clomiphene and HCG, but I didn't. So it was basically 19 years of my endocrine system lying dormant. Think about that. And it was still, I was able to come back and be normal for about 10 years.
Do you ever experience any blood hematocrit problems, blood pressure problems, kidney related situations?
No, but I went the other day. I don't need to because my chromatograph is still good. But I went and gave blood the other day. And I'm really fanatical about, I believe testosterone is incredible for you, used in the right way. But it can, it's advantageous, but it can be a booger for you if you don't. But I've been trying to think more about, I'm into the immune system and keeping my immune system healthy. But I didn't want to take a chance. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start giving blood every 3 months to make sure that, that my red blood cell count stays low. But I've not had any issue. Look, I'm scared to jinx myself. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. Now, it's natural that my LDL and HDL naturally run high, but I have more of a fluffy LDL, Michael. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I'm not a big believer in statin drugs at all. But other than that, I'm okay. I'm okay, and I'm pretty fanatical. I don't drink. I've never smoked. I've never really done anything. When I stopped bodybuilding, I stopped doing anything bad for myself.
Speaking of stopping bodybuilding, when you were done competing and you were dealing with the bloods and your chemical panels and the endocrinologist, were you training or was there a lapse from training, or have you trained straight through?
I've never stopped.
Okay.
I've never stopped training. I mean, it's really what saved my life, even though, I went from, my strength dropped down to 75%, minimal, maybe even a little bit more. And I felt terrible. I didn't even feel a pump. I didn't even know. So I'd go work out, Michael, and not even feel anything. Like, what the heck am I doing?
Did you have any mental suppression, depression, anything like that?
There was a point in time I remember driving to the fire department one morning and it hit me. And then that's when I knew I really needed to get help. I said, you know what? I didn't have my son or anything at that point. And I said, I could care less if I lived or died.
Wow.
It hit me like that. Now, I would never do anything to take my life. No. But I was at that point in my life. And I said, I've got to do something to get myself back in balance. Yeah. Oh, sure. I went through it.
Yeah, that's,
I did not have a good support system, too. And my girlfriend was not understanding.
Wait, you did or did not?
Did not. I did not. So it was rough.
So you had a girlfriend at the time?
Yeah. And she was not supportive at all, to be honest with you. And it's okay. I should have been able to hold myself together, but it helps.
When you say not supportive, was it the competing in bodybuilding or?
No. During the transition.
Oh.
Because you lose your libido, you lose everything, and then girls take it personally. And you try to explain to them, hey, this is not you, but they really don't understand. They put it back on themselves. Yeah, so it was a booger all the way around. I wish it upon no one. And I deal with a lot of people that are in andropause, a lot of my clients, and I work with them. I've worked with my doctor to help him understand what to do. I've worked with, I got a buddy that's an endocrinologist. I've tried to help him because they don't really know. I don't mean this, I'm not a physician, but I'm smart enough to realize that you don't give someone 400 milligrams of testosterone once a month.
No.
And expect for them to have a certain degree of homeostasis.
That's actually when some of these guys will prescribe every 2 weeks. And, believe it, and this to speak rhetorically, when you're vacillating up and down like this with your levels, it's worse. It's more deleterious than to just stay low.
Absolutely.
Or to stay high.
I mean, you got a 7-day half-life, man. Keep me steady. you know, and then they'll use things. Well, I don't want to get into different things. They use androgel and stuff, which is really not much for anyone. But if you replace those levels, man, you'll feel great into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And that's really what it's about.
My philosophy, if you know, John Torelli last night was saying he has a client, the guy is 72 and he can do 42 pull-ups consecutively. And, you know, I said, you know, that's fantastic, but I think we should get to the point as a society where we're no longer amazed by that, because that's the way it should be.
Should be the norm.
You know, well, if somebody can do that at that age, well, you know, look, you probably get this all the time. Hey, you look great for your age. Well, you could say, look, you know, I just look great. Why does it have to, you know, the paradigm that people think of is it's got to be, you know, broken down when you get older. Just a couple of notes here. Jurgen Porter, you still look very good, even in a shirt. Well, he's going to take a shirt off and pose for us. Did I tell you that? No, I'm kidding.
Those days are over. Yeah.
Jurgen Gurr in Porter's body in this time, we can see that Porter does not take maximum drugs. We can see it. Paul Dillon, Dorian, and so on. Porter looks natural, massive. Thank you, Jurgen. Ed Guzman, great physique. Porter Cottrell, at the end of your career, what was your anabolic intake? Yeah, he was talking about that, and he'll get more into it. And Joey Fulco, a great teen bodybuilder, Team USA, I think. Hi, gentlemen. And his daughter just placed very high on The Voice. I think it was The Voice or America's Got Talent. That's Joey, let us know what that was. She's beautiful and fantastic, and she can really carry a tune. So what were we saying? What did I just leave off on until I cut you off?
Well, we're talking about
testosterone levels.
Yeah, people going in andropause, and you know they're not taking the time to get their levels checked, and they go to a physician that has no clue what they're doing, and then they put them in the wrong direction or say, "No, as long as you're in this certain range, you're good," and that's not the way it works. So as you get older, Michael, and you know this, it's a myriad of different things that transpires in order for you to become the best you can become, or stay, you know, at a level to where you're getting better as you get older. I kind of like to look at us, if you will, as a fine wine, and with age we get better. But it takes you being methodical with what you do, being really methodical with your dietary habits, balance out your hormones, and number one, don't overtrain. Undertrain versus overtraining. I always tell people that. But listen to me, the thing that I do today, I will just tell people, I realize now that bodybuilding was absolutely incredible for me. I was a young child with a kid with a childhood dream that was able to become a successful pro, got inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2011. I mean, it's really about my son, and my son can reflect back on what his father did. But really, everything was building up toward my life to do what I do today, which is personal training and help other people be the best that they can be as they get older. Is that fair?
You moved on. You use it, you know, like the Fendus, like Zook, Zucalato, a lot of these other guys, you use it as a bridge to do other things. It gives you credibility. It gave you a great life, great memories. Your son can appreciate it. Your son could truly tell his friends at school that my dad's stronger than your dad. You know,
maybe so.
It's true. I don't have any kids. I always say when I die, I'm good.
Oh, you don't have any children?
My name is gone, DNA gone. That's okay. We don't need any more of me. So leading up, so now let's just go into, you know, what are you doing for food now, and frequency, and you know, what kind of you know, proteins, because Lance wanted to know that as far as what you do to maintain. You said you're 180 pounds. You look very lean.
Yeah, I stay lean, pretty lean year round. I mean, not bodybuilding lean. I don't want to stay that lean, but I stay in good shape. I'm pretty, like, I'm just want to tell you a couple of things about me. I don't crave any food. I don't care about food. I literally do not care, because it controlled my life for so many years. And, you know, I told you I had the eating disorder, and then I had an epiphany, and one thing led to another, and I got over that. But I truly eat to be healthy. And I can give you a typical day for me. You know, first of all, my protein sources really only come from, I eat a dozen egg whites a day, but I only eat turkey, chicken, fish, and egg whites. I'm not a big proponent of protein drinks. But only in dire situations. And I work so much, sometimes I might have a protein drink to keep me in that positive nitrogen balance. But, you know, a typical breakfast, I'm redundant with what I eat, because I like what I eat. But I'll have a dozen egg whites, 2 cups of shredded wheat, and a tablespoon of olive oil every morning for breakfast. I do it every morning. And I love the shredded wheat, but one of the contributing factors of me eating shredded wheat is it's an incredible source of soluble fiber. I have a very sensitive digestive tract, and it keeps me normal. But the rest of my meals consist of just balanced amount of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And I'm really staunch about not having any starchy carbohydrates after 2 or 3 o'clock, ever.
How about a probiotic or a flax or something?
I use Bubby's sauerkraut every day.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I take sauerkraut in.
No red meat?
Never.
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 How about when you cheat? Any more bologna sandwiches or pizza or anything?
I never think about the word cheat.
No.
I don't think about that. If I might every once in a while eat a hamburger, but I don't like to put reward, cheat, or anything around food. If I want something, I eat it. Who cares? Who cares? That's the way I look at it. I try to listen to me, as I spoke earlier. It's really, I try to teach my clients and people to have a good relationship with food. And if you have a good relationship with food, it doesn't do either or for you. You don't think about, okay, I'm feeling down, I want to eat, or, where are we going to go eat? It doesn't really matter because you got a good relationship with food. But I just think about being healthy. And when you think about being healthy, you make good choices. And the incredible thing about making good choices, Michael, is that everything else comes in behind. You stay lean, you feel great, you age gracefully, and you become better as you get older, and you're able to function like you did when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s. So that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. It's really fantastic. And, the body, if you prod it properly, can do it all on its own. Dave Anguza, I'm going to get to your question in a second. Hey, Porter, your son wants to be a bodybuilder. What do you tell him?
No.
No?
No, absolutely not. Now, if he wants to, bodybuilding in the sense of competing, absolutely not. Bodybuilding in the sense of bodybuilding to develop his physique, absolutely. I support him 100%. But I would do my very, very best to stray him away from the competitive aspect of bodybuilding.
How about if it was 30 years ago?
No, maybe not.
Maybe not, right.
Maybe not. But I'm wiser now, and I realize what it entails.
You think it's the culture now, or just the
chemical usage, all the above?
Yeah, it's hard to get away from that if you're going to compete and you're in that environment.
Well, Michael, if we're playing football, you're playing football, and you got football equipment on. If I want to be successful or even have a chance, I got to put football equipment on.
That's right.
And that's the way I look at. That's the way I look at chemicals.
And that's not negotiable, because people like, I do think, Ronnie Coleman, maybe the first time he competed as a pro, he was probably on nothing, but he's so genetically endowed. And even Kai Green, from the many people I've talked to, they think that at the very beginning, maybe not, but of course then they did.
Oh, maybe, sure, they have to.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with the changes they made. I want to ask you, hey, in bodybuilding, who were the most, speaking of, like, I always say Weider might have been other people, but who were the 2 or 3 most influential people that helped you or moved you along in your career?
That I looked up to?
Yes.
Bob Paris was one, Serge Nabray, and Robbie Robinson.
Robbie. I have a lot of experience with
Robbie.
And
I competed against Robbie in the Night of Champions, and I beat him. One of the most memorable moments of my life, because I remember it.
Because Rich Gaspar is a friend, and I was training with him.
Oh, I like Rich a lot.
Yeah, Rich said his first pro show, he was on stage with Robbie, and he beat him. But it blew his mind. Rich started very young, 21, 22 in the pros. And he just couldn't believe. He remembered looking at him in the magazine, and here he is standing next to him. And you did that too. I guess I probably saw that, but I didn't remember that. That's pretty. That's profound.
Well, I'll tell you, Michael, real quickly. We were standing for whatever reason. Kevin won that year. I placed second, Robbie third. And I remember, for whatever reason, this judge said, "Hey, I want to see just Robbie and Porter out on the stage at the Beacon Theater." And so we're out there on stage, and we're doing comparisons, just us two. And I remember, instead of focusing on what I was doing, I go back to a point in time of sitting in my biology class, looking at a picture of Danny Padilla and Robbie Robinson in my folder, sneaking and looking at it when I should have been doing my schoolwork. And my mind reflected back to that moment in time when I was younger, and here I am competing against this guy. It was a surreal moment.
I can't even listen. I can't even imagine it.
Yeah, it was cool.
Bob Paris, it's funny. I was just talking to him on Facebook last night. He doesn't want anything. It was part of his life, but he just thinks it's almost like he's typecast. Now he's a writer and a producer, and he does some other, a vast myriad of different things not associated with bodybuilding.
Right.
And he doesn't want anybody to ask him, you know, training questions. Yeah, I can appreciate that, but such a disconnect from something that made you who you were. I mean, I think he left. You know, I was going to mention this to you, but Joe Weider kept pushing. It was in his book. Kept pushing him to do. He wanted him to get bigger, and the tacit suggestion was you got to do more drugs, and that was one of the reasons why he got out.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite bodybuilders, and I actually was able to meet him when I was much younger, and I hadn't won my first national level show, and ate dinner with him. And he just had he's great personality, just all the above. Yeah.
I thought he was a real good ambassador. Dan wants to know, Dan Anguza, how did you improve your LH and FSH after going cold turkey?
Well, after about a year of suffering, I used a combination of ACG and clomiphene. So the best way to handle that, when I talk to people, you know, that I've tried to bring back, I strictly stick to the clomiphene now, Mike. I don't know if you've ever helped people come back. I don't like, if I do use ACG in combination with clomiphene, I just use it for about 1 week. You know, so clomiphene stimulates the LH, right? Yeah. And then LH, or your ACG is an LH stimulator. It stimulates the Leydig cells. So I do them in combination, and I did them in a combination then, but I only used ACG for about a week, 2,500 IUs for 3 days a week. And then I stayed on clomiphene for about 3 months.
From the great height that your physicality and you yourself occupied versus the precipice you did fall into when you got off and you had that year that you mentioned, it took a year, let's say, and how you felt. You see, I've been there, a couple of bad injuries with a neurologic condition. I gained a ton of weight. I try to revisit that pit of hell and how I felt because it gives me appreciation. But when you were in that and how bad you felt and you're scratching to get back to feeling good again, did you ever think about just going back on because you could depend on it? And never. So once you turned away, that was it.
No, I wanted to have a child.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to be a father. I mean, that's, you know, no, I never even entertained it. You know, I was just blessed. I remember going and getting my first semen analysis when I started coming back, and I was normal. So, you know, that right there gave me hope. You know, I'm back. I can produce a child. And it wasn't until, you know, I had a child and realized I was seeping back into andropause again that I even entertained doing replacement therapy again.
Wow. It's so important to stay lean, Joey Fulco. Joey still looks good. Joey could have went further, man. You know, I don't know. Do you remember Joe Fulco? He was a competitor, teenage competitor, along with John Defendis and all those guys. Yeah. John Defendis wants to kill me. I'm going to send Lance Stranahan down to his. He's got a place called the Shark Tank at his house. He's a big time trainer down in South Carolina, but you know, he's from the Steve Mahalik school of 70 to 80 sets per body part. And
John, I remember John liked to do that.
Yeah. He wants me to become a part of that. I don't know. Yeah. Walter Bennett, did you retire from the fire department? I think you did, right? While back.
I retired in February 1st, 2009, right after Canyon was born. My son was born, and I had a full pension.
Oh, good. You can competitively bodybuild or be healthy, but you can't do both. And Joey Fulco says, yeah, we did 75 sets, him and Defendis. Frank Ferry wants to know, and Frank, I don't know if this is now or when Porter competed. Typically, how many meals a day are you at right now?
I eat four to 5 meals a day.
You do. Are they generally all this? Do you try to follow a circadian rhythm where it's pretty much the same time? No,
I don't get caught up in that. No. I try to eat minimally at 2, maximum at 4.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm just really like, I'll throw out everyone so they'll know exactly what I eat on a daily basis. And people ask me, how do I stay so lean? I don't really do cardio because I don't have time.
Hey, Porter, do you like that? The lead off to that question, how, as if there's a way, because there really is no way. It's just your way, and it's kind of universal in a way.
It's just be consistent with it, find a balance that you enjoy. But you know, I told you what my breakfast is. My next meal, I have a cup of rice, 6 ounces of turkey or chicken, and a cup of vegetables. Boom, that's it. Third meal, I might do the same thing if it's before 3, and I'll have a protein drink if I'm working a lot. And my very last meal, I love this. I eat 8 ounces of frozen blueberries with a little bit of stevia and a dozen egg whites and a tablespoon of cod liver oil.
That sounds good.
Oh, let me tell you something. Every single person I turn on to my frozen blueberries, they said, "Oh my God, Porter, why have you been holding back from me?" It's the most incredible thing you can eat.
So I think I'm gonna put aside that Ben and Jerry's. Maybe I'll try that tonight.
Listen to me, Michael. I loved ice cream before the blueberries, and I haven't touched ice cream in maybe a year and a half.
I believe you. The egg whites in that blueberry preparation, are they cooked or are they just liquid?
No. I cook. I don't believe in anything carton made. I get real eggs,
Okay.
and I just use a skillet, make my egg whites, put a little pepper on them, and my frozen blueberries, I put them in the microwave for 30 seconds, put stevia on it, and eat it like that.
Do you prepare your food daily, or do
yes?
You, so you don't meal prep, 3 days?
No. I'll make enough chicken and turkey and things like that to last a few days, and enough rice and things like that. But every morning I get up when I'm making my breakfast. I still have a meal prep business I do, and I'll make one of my clients' meals, and I'll make mine. I've got a system down. I can do it in 30 minutes.
That's important. And what do you drink in general? Mostly water, coffee, anything like that?
I drink coffee in the morning. I drink water, and there's something I really love. And do you have Qdobas there? You have Qdobas?
What is it?
Qdobas? Well, anyway,
I'm not sure.
The places where you can go in and get fountain drinks now, like at the movie theaters.
Yeah.
They have a Dasani lemon water, and that is the only thing I crave to drink, and it's the only thing I crave as a whole. But I'll drink maybe, half a gallon out a day.
That sounds like you want some right now, but you can't leave. You can't leave yet.
Well, you can't even have it now because of the coronavirus. They don't allow you to serve it.
Oh, hell.
Go figure. But anyway, that's as far as I go. I don't drink anything else.
Joey Fulco wants you, if you could please perhaps explain the cod liver oil that you mentioned.
I use a Carlson's Norwegian cod liver oil. And if I could tell you anything that's vital to your overall health and well-being, because, most people are essential fatty acid. They have deficits of essential fatty acids. You know that, Michael.
Yes.
And so cod liver oil is a combination of AHA, EFA, and EPA. And it has a natural level of vitamin A and vitamin D3. And I take 2 tablespoons a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. I've been giving it to my son since he was 3 years old. And I give him a teaspoon and a half every day. It is the most incredible fat source that you can ingest. I just developed over the last year an allergen to nuts. And so I can't eat any nuts for whatever reason. So the only fat sources I get, which fat is so vital for the overall health of the body and for the brain, and for protecting every living cell, all the above, stabilizing blood sugar level. It goes on and on and on. But I use avocado every day, and I use cod liver oil every day. And that is my fat source.
We didn't know that back in the 80s. We thought that was like anathema, And
you know what, Michael? That's why I would always feel so terrible preparing for a show. And it wasn't until Lee Labrada and I were in Spain doing a FIBO, and he asked me, well, hey, Porter, what kind of fat are you getting in your diet? And I thought, dude, you're trying to sabotage me. I'm not going to eat fat because I'm going to get fat.
Lee Labrada?
Yeah. And lo and behold, I started off with using Barlean's high ligament flaxseed oil, but that changed my world when I started utilizing fats. And I realized, and I started studying fats and understanding how it affects the body. And that, that's the most important thing you can take in other than a protein.
I agree. That's very true. And in fact, if I were ever to prescribe the diets that I did back in the 70s or 80s, I'd be in jail, for malpractice or something, because it's, you're actually doing harm. And of course, that depends on the individual physical picture because everybody's different.
Everyone's different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Joey Foco says his mom is always preaching this. All right. So how about just to tail off on this, supplements? Do you take any type of vitamins, nutrients, minerals, anything like that?
I'm big on nutraceuticals, specifically vitamin C. I'm really super big on turmeric. I'm sure you're familiar with turmeric.
Oh, turmeric, absolutely.
Yeah, major. And I take a milk thistle for my liver and just a typical B complex and a vitamin E. And I'm big on, because most people never have their DHEA levels checked, Michael. And I'm a big proponent of sublingual DHEA.
You mentioned TRT. If you wouldn't mind telling us what the dose per week.
I take 100 milligrams every 7 days.
Okay. Do you take zinc or anything like that along with it, or stinging nettles?
No, I take a anastrozole. I take 0.25 anastrozole.
The whole thing between like I've got Will Brink on tomorrow, and he's one of the big science guys in the industry, and he's going to explain the fallacy of over-the-counter testosterone boosters and human growth hormone boosters. And the point is this: like people like zinc, for instance, you'll read it in the literature that it's good to boost your testosterone. Get a blood test, find out if your zinc is low. a zinc supplement will get your zinc to where it should be. And then you've cultivated fertile ground where your homeostasis, your physiology is where it should be. It doesn't give you anything extra. It's not going to make your testosterone skyrocket, but it will allow your body to produce normal levels if that's where the lack is coming from.
Well, it actually, well, there's a thing that helped me before I went on testosterone therapy. And a combination of B6 and zinc, they kind of act as an aromatase inhibitor. You're
talking a combination of zinc and what?
B6.
Oh, B6. Okay.
Yeah. They act,
really?
Yeah. Well, because I used to do blood work. I don't know why I'm blank on it, but it's something I used to take every single night before I went to bed. And it's B6 and zinc. And what it did, it acted as a aromatase inhibitor. So what in essence it did, you have your total testosterone, then you have your free, and then you have your estradiol, right? So how the zinc and the B6 work, Michael, it would push my estrogen down and force more of testosterone, not a whole lot more, but it did make a difference, to go into my free category, which is the most pertinent of the two. Total doesn't mean anything. So I don't know why I'm blank on it, what I used to take. And I remember ZMA. I took ZMA.
Oh, yeah.
ZMA. And I took it every night. And it's a B6 zinc and something else. And I took my blood work prior with my free, and then my blood work after, using ZMA. It did push my free up. It did by about 5 to 8 points.
Two questions on the longevity end here. Well, it's all longevity, but with clients, do you suggest blood work, number one, and number two, do you ever face the conundrum of clients who have doctors who tell them, well, let's say their T is 250, and they'll say, hey, you're fine, you're within normal. Well, that's very low normal. So see, I would resist that. I would say, well, 250 is still way too low, even though it's within normal. I'd rather see them up in 700, 900 range.
Well, always remember, Michael, all the time, all the time. But the most important thing to remember when you're looking at the endocrine system, and when you talk about someone having andropause, for example, is we have to find out truly what's the functioning testosterone. So I've got people, I had one of my clients, they had a total of 487 nanograms on the total testosterone, but he went down to his free.
Let me just stop you for a second. That number, I appreciate it. But when you assume or discover that number, which is representative of their chemical status, do you match that up with their physicality? Because some people can have like a number in a certain point and they look and feel great. Just like you can get a person who's considered obese and all their measured indices are within normal.
You're exactly right. See, when people talk about andropause, it's just not the endocrine makeup or your blood work. It's the whole picture of the feeling of well-being, your libido, your energy level, your strength, all the above. But when I was working with this one guy, he had really good levels at the total. But when you go down to his free, he has zero functioning testosterone. Wow. He was in severe andropause. And by the way, his estradiol was only 24. Wow. So it wasn't like he had a major conversion, and his prolactin was good. I mean, so he was in severe andropause at that level, at the total level. But when you looked at his free, but anyway, he goes back on testosterone. He gets on testosterone therapy. His whole life changes for the betterment.
Right.
And and he goes, Porter, I didn't realize how bad I felt until I go back on.
Well, that's a great point, because I've had legions of people. There's, people in general are so used to, the bar is so low now, they're so used to feeling crappy that's fine. So they don't have the biofeedback of what it is to feel, crisp and energetic and,
Yeah, and they don't remember what it was like.
No.
But if you get someone back to a certain element of homeostasis with their endocrine system, and you bring in a fairly decent diet, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you get them working out, they'll be like they were in their 20s and 30s.
Oh, there's no doubt.
In most cases, unless there's underlying other issues.
Gennaro Ferreira, you got to see this guy's physique. Gennaro Ferreira, my God, he can go on a show anytime. You just got to see him. I'm not gonna wax too ebullient on him, but he says, Porter, when was your first ever show and your last show? He says, I take maca powder to boost my test, and I find citrulline, malate, agmatine, and acetyl L-carnitine. Those are all good. And B12 every day, and lots of Italian espresso. Just not after 5 o'clock, and I can't sleep. What do you think?
Well, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. All the supplements he's talking about, they're fine and they're not going to cause any adverse reactions. But my very first show I ever did was the 1984 Mr. Louisville, or 83 Mr. Louisville, where I placed second. I weighed 152 pounds. My next show is when I won the Louisville, the Kentucky, both weekend to weekend, 10 months later. Listen, I'll tell you something real quickly, how a person knows they got something going on. I competed at 152 in the Mr. Louisville. 10 months later, after understanding that nutrition is the whole kit and caboodle, 10 months later, I competed in the Mr. Louisville at 180 and won, and never was beat again until the Nationals when Franco Santarello won. Then the Nationals.
I got that. I go to the site, it's got all the results. You won the junior nationals, then 89 nationals, third light heavyweight, 91. You won your class, and that's when you went pro, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fact,
and then
91, Kevin Lebroni. What was your relationship with? Because it seemed to me that it was like you, Kevin Lebroni, and Sean Ray. In fact, that's one of I'm jumping ahead, but I always have 5 questions at the end. And my 5 for you, I'll ask one now. Sean Ray or Kevin Lebroni? That's all I'll ask you.
Well, I like them both. They're both incredible bodybuilders. Kevin and I used to do a lot of stuff together, and more than Sean and I did. But we would travel together, do appearances together, and do a lot of photo shoots together. I loved Kevin, and I got along great with Kevin. And Sean was one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time, no doubt. And I got along great with Sean. I liked them both tremendously.
Do you think one of those two, either of them should have won the Olympia at least once?
I think they both should have won at least once.
There was at least one contest where it would be
both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was always.
I agree 100%.
You think that was a matter of it's just so hard to knock off the incumbent?
Politics.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Listen. It ain't no problem saying that because it does exist. I see it in all walks of life.
It's real. It's real.
With clients, now talk about injuries if you've suffered any and how you've managed them over the years because you're still in great shape. So obviously you don't let it hold you back.
The only injury I ever had is I got into boxing and I tore my labrum in 3 different places and I had surgery and I do all my own rehab. I do a lot of rehab with people, Michael, and I did all my own rehab and stuff and I'm normal. But that's really the only major injury other than my SI joint's been killing me here lately. And, chiropractors were shut down in Kentucky. So it really
check for Piriformis Syndrome on that. If you're familiar, a lot of times people think and I'm not saying it probably is a sciatic SI joint, but so many times people think it's a disc. And I used to work on the piriformis. It would just straighten them right out. It's a muscle that goes over the.
Well, you know what trigger points are. You're familiar with trigger points. Well, what happened? When your SI joint goes out, Michael. What people don't realize when your back or your SI joint goes out your knee, you change your gait. And when you change your gait, you have a manifestation of trigger points that take place in your piriformis and other areas of your behind. So I'm dealing with a multitude of different things. But other than that, man, I have really been lucky. But I'm a pretty good trainer as far as being smart about warming up. I'm fanatical about warming up. And I'm not into huge jumps, massive jumps and weights. I never have been.
As far as your knowledge, and obviously it's a lot of it's from self-experience, but a lot of people don't know you started off as a welder, you're trained in welding.
Yeah.
A firefighter, and you're also trained in nursing as well.
No. We would do EMT work and medical work, and I started nursing school. But once I started trying to work toward a nursing degree, because I thought I was going to step away from bodybuilding, I ended up getting an endorsement contract. So that fell by the wayside.
Oh, okay. Can you touch upon, and we did talk about this, but people they want to hear this only because it's rather frightening, but the Momo Benaziza, I mean, you were the one trying to save him when that happened. Were you in Hungary or one of the countries?
We were in Holland. We had just finished the last show. We were in Amsterdam. And I never, listen to me, you know how some things are embedded. I remember and when you did a European tour and the shows in Europe, you did all 4 rounds at one time. So we were doing the very first round at the Holland show, the Holland Grand Prix. And I remember Momo was winning everything, by the way. And I remember Momo going off stage and then coming back on stage, off stage, come back on stage. And we didn't realize what was going on. But we had finished all the rounds and we were into the fourth round and we were all back in the back and we were sitting down laughing and cutting up because we're getting ready to go home the next day. We'd been in Europe for about 4 or 5 weeks. And all of a sudden, Momo standing right beside me, and the wall's about maybe 5 feet away from me, Michael. I'm with as much force as you can think of. He projectile vomited. And Milo Chavez was standing there, and Henderson Thor, or maybe Terry Pastel, and it splattered on us.
Wow.
I remember it splattering on us, and we thought, what the hell's going on? And to make a long story short, we didn't realize that, his potassium level had been going up from the whole show, and he had been vomiting the whole 3 hours before we even left. And that was the start of it.
Is this coupled with diuretics, I'm assuming? So he's really losing all his lights.
What he did, he would not drink. It was just his thing. He did it at the Arnold that year, but he brought himself out of it. Green apples are very high in potassium. We know that. And you know what slow K is, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he was taking a Lasix and another diuretic. But he was using the green apples, Michael, for his fluid, not realizing the fluid he's getting from. He's getting it, but he's shooting his potassium level even up higher.
Right.
So
right.
My understanding, you might have to correct me on this, when your potassium level, what happened to him, basically his kidneys started to shut down. That's what was causing all the projectile vomiting. And then I remember his potassium level that night that he died was 10.4.
Wow.
And anything over 5, you're in bad shape.
The nature of the night's progression, didn't he go to his room and Wayne D'Amelia called upon you? Primarily you, right?
Well, we were driving home. It was Terry Pastel, Sonny Schmidt, Milo Chavez, myself, Momo Benaziza, and his 21-year-old girlfriend who had never been around bodybuilders at all. Oh, we were all driving back. We had a 2-hour drive. We passed the hospital, and we didn't stop.
Did he not? Did you notice this, or he just did not relate this to anyone?
No one. Wayne knew he was sick. Wayne knew he was throwing up, but no one insisted, hey, let's get this guy to the hospital. So we drove past the hospital. We get back to the village that we're staying in, and we're staying in a place called Rotterdam outside of Amsterdam. And I remember, this is for real, Milo Chavez, or is either Henderson Thorne or Milo Chavez, and I, as hard, I've got granite right here, right now. His legs were like granite. He had been throwing up so much. He could not stand on his own. We carried him to his room, and he kept saying, he couldn't speak English very well. He kept saying, basically, I'm going to bring myself out of it. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. So Steve Brisball and Henderson Thorne, all of us.
Porter, let me talk, just interject. At this point, since you're the most clinical person there, what were you thinking at this point? He was in dire straits.
Yeah, but at the same time, he keeps saying, this happened to me before. I'm going to be okay. I know what to do. Just get me to my room. So I'm thinking in my head, well, he knows what to do. Get me to my room. He was really insisting on that. So, I had to take him for his word for it. And, and he couldn't speak very good English. So we're all lost. So we took him to his room, and then I went and got something to eat. I come back to my room, get ready to get back up there early that morning to fly back out. And all of a sudden, Steve Brisball comes down and beats on my door and says, Porter, come quick. It's Momo. So I run down to the room. Everyone's in the room, and we pull him off and put him on the floor. And right there, he took his last breath.
Wow.
He took his last breath. And we started CPR, and it was myself and Alcu Gurley finally started helping me. And we did CPR for about 45 minutes before the EMS got there.
Do you remember what you were feeling when you were going through that, or you were just being mechanical and getting it done for the time?
Well, listen, being on the fire department, when you do those kind of things and you're dealing with those kinds of things, you're thinking about just doing your job.
Right. You
don't really think. And I wasn't thinking about anything other than doing what I had to do to try to save this guy's life. And now, after the fact, though, once the EMS took him, I remember having a small breakdown because that was a friend. Yep. It's the first time I did CPR on a friend. It's different when you do it on a stranger, Michael. But when you do it on a friend, it's a little bit surreal and overwhelming. And I remember having a little bit of a breakdown, just a minute. And then after that, we all got in the van and went to the hospital. And the funny thing about it is, Michael, in Holland, when you pass, normally in our hospitals in the States, they lay you down, you go in the emergency room, and you give your last respects in the hospital. With them, we went into his room, Wayne D'Amelia and all of us, and he was sitting upright, and his arms were to his side, and the sheet was covered up to him perfect. He looked like he was sleeping. And then we went up and paid our last respects. And he had, that was the last of Momo Benaziza. And it was a sad situation. His girlfriend was just, in shock. She was literally in shock.
Sobering, yet were there ramifications in your circle at that time or going forward for the year? Or were there any edicts put forth by the IFBB or,
Absolutely not.
No.
Actually, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Matarazzo, the following Arnold, had the same thing happen to him.
I think I remember that.
Remember, he had to go to the hospital. I remember he almost died.
I do remember that. What a nice guy he was.
I loved Mike.
What a great guy.
I cannot believe he passed.
It's terrible. Were you involved? Did you know Andreas Munzer very well? Or?
Yeah, I'd actually spent some time with Andrea. That's such a sad thing about Andrea dying. He had just come out with his video, and he wanted me to look at his video, and Chris Lund gave me a copy of it, and I was in Orange County doing my photos, and God love him. And then lo and behold, just a day or two later, Chris calls me up and tells me that Andreas, had died. I think he had a bleeding ulcer.
Yeah.
And he died on an operating table or something of that nature. And that was just heart-wrenching because he was such a nice person.
Yeah, he was another, I don't like to be non-clinical and you see this stuff secondhand, thirdhand, but it was said that upon sectioning his body on autopsy, his liver was so decrepit from overuse that it was almost liquefied.
For real?
Yeah, and I guess he went along, the word is he was just a chronic overuser, and he was really, that death look of cuts. I mean, whoever looked like that, but the cost, I guess it wreaked havoc on his innards.
I remember one of my friends told me exactly what he takes, and it was real close to him. And he mentioned he took 20 holotestin. Do you remember holotestin by chance?
I do, yeah.
He took 20 holotestin a day, on top of 7 or 8 other different things. And holotestin itself is terrible for your liver.
Very bad.
Like Anadrol. Remember
Very
Anadrol,
dirty drug, right?
Yeah. And that's what he did. Oh, it was a tremendous amount of stuff he took. Blew me away.
What do you think the goal is of a fellow like that? Because he probably didn't have enough to win the Olympia. I mean, he was shocking, and people wanted to see him, but
it's the typical mentality of bodybuilding. If I take more, I'm going to be better. And in essence, really, Michael, truthfully, it's less makes you better.
That's true.
Yeah. And that's what I get blown away by people utilizing supplements as their sole source of food and food as their supplement. And I give it to the marketing companies. They're really great. But chemicals should be like a supplement to something, not a primary thing to something.
Yeah. Well, John Romano was saying, the most potent drug, if used correctly, is food.
Oh, make you a break.
Consistently over time. And back in the 80s, we were, I wasn't a big guy, but I would chronically every year, I figured out I've gained and lost 1,100 pounds in my life. But you gain 40 or 50. We'd eat like slobs.
Oh, that's fair.
And you might remember this. And the net result, hopefully, is you have 5 pounds. Like maybe gain a pound. There was no result. The body over time, when you're tearing away your flesh, the body thinks it's being attacked. So all these poisonous circumstances occur, and you're living in this status of free radical. It's just nothing. There's nothing good about it. You do that long enough. You do that long enough. Your net result is, I think you've taken years off your life, and leading into that, you work with clients now. So what is your main approach? And we'll head towards the end with this, because this is the important stuff with your clients. Sure. What do you do? What is your general approach to help them regain their youth and vitality and feeling good again?
The number one thing is to be able to get them to function. I don't look at ages. I've got clients that range from 75 all the way down to 30. And if someone comes to me, I make sure they don't have injuries, but if someone's like, they don't do anything whatsoever, I get them moving and I get them doing things little by little. And I do not push real hard on diet with them. I help them understand how to eat. I don't push it on them because people are going to change. They're going to have to make that on their own. I encourage them, but slowly but surely, once they notice that they can start doing certain things in the gym, they're more apt to do things that are a little bit better for them out of the gym. But I'm a very conservative person when I work with people. And number one, I try not to overtrain people. Number two, I try more importantly, to never get anyone injured. But I try to get people to do things where when they leave the gym, they feel good about themselves. And I never ask anyone to do anything that I feel they might not be able to do, because especially when it comes to a workout, because I want them to walk away from the workout feeling like they're able to accomplish something, that they weren't defeated by something. So that is my number one thing. But slowly but surely, I've got clients that are in incredible condition. I've got clients that are older, that are just trying to get through the latter part of their life and be the best they can and be great with their grandkids and enjoy life. And it's about a balance. And I teach my clients training with weights, training with cardio, your diet, supplementation, all the above is about finding a balance to where you can do it and you don't feel like it's restricting you from the joy of life, and you feel like you're able to do it and accomplish something without the pain and agony that me and you used to go through preparing for shows.
You know, you got much more results out of it than I did. I bet you I have more photos of myself, because they, when I was a kid, take a lot of photos. That's the only way you'll know you were who you were. You know, and you don't want to break up families. And this ties into what you said. I had a client, and we had a nutrition clinic along with my chiropractic clinic, and there was a husband came in. He was very upset, and I talked to him. But it turns out his wife, I had her eating oats and being overly mindful and too worried about the diet. She was taking one flake at a time off the scale in order to get it to be exactly, 3 grams. I mean, she was, each little flake, and she was going about. If you're that concerned and mindful about what you're doing, and you can't kind of put it on the back burner, it's not something you're able to sustain forever. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Now, I am one, for me, I weigh my protein still, Michael. I still weigh it, because I want to know what kind, if I'm getting enough protein, and I don't want to get too much, because your body can only utilize so much. I tell people,
hold that thought, because got Dan Wingham. This guy is in his 60s. Man, he could win like an open show. Says hello from Madison, Indiana, and he's also a concert violinist.
Oh, what a beautiful instrument
with these huge arms. So he's kind of like a walking contradiction or oxymoron. I don't know. I hope I'm not getting him mad. You're all the way in Indiana, so you can't find me.
Yeah, that's, man, what a great. I love the violin.
Well, he's proof that one man has done it. Most can replicate it, but I don't like this, and you might see this. Some of the trainers, they'll put up a picture of 2 people. One's like, the woman who's 80 and she's running a marathon. She looks great. And then the second picture is a woman, old woman, same age. She's broken down in a wheelchair looking out the window. And they put, "What's your excuse?" Now, I don't think that's good, because there are excuses sometimes.
There is.
And when you put people, the hardest thing for some people to do is to go into your facility. They're driving by. Most people have never really trained. I had a lady, the lady didn't even know what the bicep and tricep. She knew the arms. She didn't even know what the muscles were.
Yeah.
So to walk in and approach you and say, "This is what I want to," listen, you put that type of garbage out, they're going to drive right by and go have a pizza and go home and eat ice cream, and they're going to cry and go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, here's one thing I tell all my clients, and this is, I'm truthful, and I don't like this. You know how people would say, walk the walk? I don't like that. I just simply ask my clients, Michael, will you please just walk beside me? Because everything I ask of you, I do.
Right.
Just walk beside me, and I don't need you to be me. Just be the best you can be.
Right. And frankly, you've got the body. Anybody would want that, what you're carrying now, 180. Obviously, you've got the cred from back in the day, but it's no longer necessary to carry that mass. Obviously, you know how to do it. You already, it's like, I'm not going to explain to somebody the hexose monophosphate shunt or the Krebs cycle or any of this chemistry. They don't want to. They already know we know that. And in case of emergency, break glass, take that out. But you don't have to bring that out, because they just want to know what to do. They already trust and have confidence in you. And if they're doing that and they're not making results, then you tweak things just to keep them, because they want, people are happy when they have a little bit of progress each day. Not these big, not unrealistic, I want to look like you when you won the big show. You don't want that.
No, yeah, I don't work with bodybuilders, just so you know.
Oh, you don't?
No, it's not.
You won't even make a special exception if you see someone who's like the new genetic guy, or no?
No, I try not to be honest with you. I mean, honestly, their attitude's different.
It's true.
I mean, I'm just being straight. I'm not trying to be mean toward anyone. Their attitude's different, and I don't like that. I mean, but neither here. I try my best not to.
back in the day, everybody was friends. I love my gym. It's the best gym anywhere. But you go in there, it's like the land of the angry giants. And I got guys that are 30 years younger than me, and they're like hit me with a shoulder. Are you kidding? I could
What the heck's up with that? Yeah,
I would never do that.
It's not the same. And I mean, if I needed to do a favor for someone, like you wanted me to do something, I would. But I try not to work with bodybuilders. You know.
Conversely, and then I got some questions for you. Then we're going to go over your website and direct people to that, because we're doing really good. And, we're almost on 2 hours, which I think is fantastic, because it was an easy talk.
Yeah,
very edifying for the throng. Would you say that on the other hand, going in a different direction, I forgot what I was going to say as far as getting people. Oh, you got a person that comes to you, and they're very unrealistic. They're short. They don't have the right body type, very narrow, and they want to be, they want to look like the girl on a soap opera, or they want to, compete in some show, and it just not a bodybuilder per se, but how do you manage unrealistic expectations? Because you can rejuvenate, but there are some limitations.
Well, I just tell them, instead of thinking about where you want to be, let's take a small incremental little goal, set that goal, and then move from that through steps. So let's don't think about the end result. Let's think about segments of getting to that end result. So if a person wants to lose 75, 80 pounds and look XYZ, or even be a competitive bikini model, or whatever the case may be, well, so let's start with maybe losing 10 pounds and then work through that, and don't set unrealistic goals for yourself, because you'll get discouraged, and when you get discouraged, you'll drop out, and we don't want to drop out. You want to take things in baby steps and methodically do it, and then reach your goal, because I do believe everyone can do anything within some degree of genetic reasoning. But you've got to be patient to get there, and you can't do it all at one time. You just got to do everything with baby steps. And I tell people, things are done with baby steps. Like, I didn't become a good bodybuilder overnight. It took base hits. It's like a baseball game. But baseball games are not really won with home runs. They're won with base hits. And so it was a baby step process for me to become Porter Cottrell, the bodybuilder per se. So if someone comes to me and wants to do XYZ, well, we can get you there, but be realistic in your viewpoints or your goals, and let's methodically do it through baby steps.
I could go into, that's another big, long, we probably have you back on, because this is fantastic. I'm going to go over my 5, or actually I already asked you 4 quick questions. You just give me your general synopsis when you hear each name or situation I give you. Sure. Wayne D'Amelia.
I always liked Wayne, and Wayne was always good to me.
I've heard he was pretty much the best promoter ever.
He was the best.
Really
I really liked Wayne. I listen to me. I'm going to be straight with you. Jim Mannion and Wayne D'Amelia, I loved them to death. I had a really great relationship with both men. Jim was incredible to me. Wayne was incredible to me. They both were I loved them to death.
Dorian.
Good memories. I love Dorian. I got along. As a matter of fact, I would be the only person Dorian would let me back in his room in Olympia. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The shadow. Yeah. Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. Because, I was just a normal everyday guy, like, hey, what's up? You know, so I wasn't your typical. I don't know why. And Peter McGough thought a lot of me. And then, Peter and Dorian were close. But, Dorian and I got along great.
Did you ever look at Dorian and think to yourself, I'm never going to beat him?
Never.
You didn't think that. So you didn't think that way.
I never thought like that. Because listen, remember the great thing about bodybuilding, it's you against yourself.
Right.
You're going to be subjectively judged by, 7 or 9 judges, whatever the case may be, but it's you against yourself.
It has
That's the great thing.
Comparison's a thief of joy. So you can only build yourself, and then you put it out there, and, you either win or lose, and that's it.
Yeah. And you know something? I never looked at competitors.
Never.
Nope.
Never. Even when you started?
Nope.
Well, that's
listen, when I first started, Michael, I had to get so much lint off of me. I didn't have time to look at any competitors.
I remember that story.
Yeah, I never paid attention to competitors. I just focused on myself, because I knew it would psych me out, to be honest with you.
Okay. Your son.
Mm-hmm. Kanan.
Yep. Just some words about him. What would you give him for advice, or going forward, or what kind of life do you want him to have? I mean, would you have him do some of the things you did or follow the same career? Not necessarily just bodybuilding, but firefighting, or, I mean, what kind of path does he seem like he's on?
Yeah. He's an extremely sensitive child, very sensitive, more than even me. I'm sensitive, but he's very sensitive. I'll tell you something, Michael. Now that I have Kanan, it's hard for me to even think about what life was like without my son.
Wow.
Because he is so much a part of my life. I love him more than life itself. I remember before I had a child, people always say, you don't know what it's like for the love until you have a child, the love for a child. And that is so true. I love him more than life itself. Everything I really do in life today, and I love my life. I've got a good life, but I do it for my son. Strictly, my main focus is for my son to grow up. I didn't have a good childhood, but I want my son to have a good childhood and have a loving childhood and realize that, I mean, we're super, super close. We hold hands as we drive down the street. I mean, that's how close we are. And he is just a good kid, made straight A's, this semester, even though this quarter, even though, the parents had to be the teachers, which I don't want to do that ever again. He's just a good kid. What he wants to do in life, I don't know. Over time, he'll figure that out. I just try to teach him to be the very best he can be kind to people, stand up for yourself, never let anyone mistreat you, and never make fun of anyone, and be the best you can be, and enjoy life. And then the educational part of your life, even though I know you don't understand it right now, Kanan, it's the most important thing for you in your future. So I'm fanatical about his education. But I couldn't be more proud than I am of my son. And he is a lovely kid.
Everything you just said, I think, defines you as a man, and also your extensions into the people in your sphere of influence, which I think is all utterly fantastic. I'll go back for a second where you said you didn't have the best childhood. Well, what you do is you do the opposite. You don't replicate what you went through. I ascribe to that. It's one of the chapters in my book. But for you, I think, aside from your son, and he comes first, the most pointed thing you just said was, and you're not waiting for the parade to begin. You already have a wonderful life now, right? So you know enough. In other words, when you're winning the shows, a lot of guys will think, well, once I win this, then it's going to be that. And then someday the train is going to come into the depot. The crowd is going to amass. The mayor is going to come out. They're going to let the flop of balloons go, and they're going to all be a tribute to me. It's going to be my day. No, the day is right now, or the day may have already passed. So, but you live in the moment, so you already know it's a good life now.
Listen to me. I'll tell you what the reason I'm so happy about my bodybuilding career, and I didn't have a good childhood, and I didn't have a father, but what is the most incredible thing for me about my childhood or my bodybuilding? I swear to you, this is the most important thing to me, Michael, is that my son could look back at his father and be proud of something he achieved, and look up to him. You see? And so I don't want him to be a bodybuilder. I want him to do what he wants to do. But if he can just step back for a moment and realize that his father was just a young snotty-nosed kid that became a pretty successful bodybuilder, something he chose to do. I chose to do that. Then maybe that gives him a little bit of like, man, if my dad can do that, then I can do anything.
Is your son aware of the station you had once assumed in bodybuilding?
Yes, my ex-wife.
Does he have the understanding of like a world level of achievement? No. Okay.
Yes and no. I think one time my ex-wife set him down and explained to him, because I would never say anything to him. And she explained to him, I think he has a fairly decent understanding as an 11-year-old could. But I know that he is proud of what his dad did, and he's proud of what his dad does. Like, he loves going to my gym. I have a new gym now, and he loves going. He thinks it's so cool that his dad has the gym. So and he's been going to the gym with me since he was 2 years old.
That's cool.
It's a lifestyle. But yeah, so maybe as he gets older, he might realize the magnitude of it, because even, sometimes I think about it. I think, you know what? Anyone who really gets into the Hall of Fame or becomes successful at anything at that level is really something to look back on and be proud of.
It's,
you know.
listen, based upon all the people I've talked to in my life, and I've been very fortunate in that way, and I always try to cherry pick little things from everyone. Everyone has something to offer. I have come to an understanding of the difficulty, if not near impossibility, to become the best in the world at anything. All of the daunting, from everything, mental limitations, and to the most obvious limitations, but to pursue that and finally even get just a taste of it. Listen, I think one of the goals in life is to not have be almost totally devoid of regret when you're ready to go. And shame on you, not you per se, if you know you have something in you and you don't tap into that and at least respect it and try to bring it out somehow. That's the greatest regret. You hear about people, if only I should have done this, or I had a chance to do that. To me, that's almost perverse,
Well, there's two things that I wanted in my life. And, once I got into bodybuilding, as I was moving up the ladder and thinking about what I wanted to do with the sport of bodybuilding, it's the very early part, I never wanted to be the person that was sitting on the couch watching TV X amount of years later and said to myself, what if? Number one. And number two, I never wanted to end my sport or what I love to do at the bottom end. So I'm still placing at the top of the sport, still qualifying for the Mr. Olympia. So I ended my career where I wanted to end it. And I never allowed myself to be that person that said, what if? I don't ever have to look back.
And you have your health and happiness. And
as we know. Yes.
We still got a lot of people on. I'd like you guys to give a thumbs up or a heart if you like this. I also give you homework. You must visit portercottrell.com. He's got a great website. I was looking this over. This is, I'm going to steal some business ideas here, man. I would never.
Well, listen to me. I've got an incredible team.
So they've done a great.
Works behind me. Yeah.
This site's very it's easy to navigate. He's got a lot of before and afters on here. He goes into the psychology of what he does. He tells you what he can offer for you. You can contact him, and as you could see, he's a very nice guy, very, very easy to talk to. He understands that tenet in business. Whenever somebody contacts you, you get back to them. And it's interesting because especially in we're at the point now where we're locked in our houses. This online training is even a bigger element now. So is that what you're focusing on now?
Well, we got an Achieve program we developed. It's a 12-week Achieve program, and it's an app, and you download the app and you get something from me every day. But I teach people, number one, how to eat, number two, how to train. I give you the workouts. You've got a thumbnail version and you got a full-length version. And I take one of the owners of the company that I work with, Lance Perkins. He comes to me and he goes through this incredible metamorphosis. He's overweight, injured, and he becomes this incredibly conditioned person. And I take everyone through that 12-week process. So what I do is I try to teach people the simplicity of training, the simplicity of eating, preparing meals, supplementation, all the above. And it's all done through an app. So all you have to do is go to portercottrell.com. You download the app, you join the program, and then every day you'll get something from Porter Cottrell.
How do you like this compared to actually seeing someone in the gym putting them through the reps?
I got a combination of the two. So I do a lot of my filming at 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 in the morning, and then I work the rest of the day. So I've got the best of both worlds. I like it because it enables me to reach more people, enables me to get my name out there and get in contact with more people to help more people. So it gives me a little bit of both worlds, if you will.
What's the age and the average condition of a person who initially comes to you?
The average age is going to be 35 and up. Some great condition, most of them with major injuries. And I'm just pretty good at injuries and dealing with people with injuries and rehab. I'm really good at rehab. But it's a myriad of different people at a myriad of different levels. They come to me, and everyone wants something different. Some people just like most of my clients, Michael. I'll tell you what I think about personal training. You could be the most incredible personal trainer, but you remember how we were conversing earlier about personalities when you get at a certain level and how you carry yourself. It's all really about relationships. So you can be the greatest trainer in the world. If you don't have a good personality, you don't connect with your clients.
Doesn't matter.
It's never going to last. So Most of my clients have been with me from 10 years all the way to 22.
Wow.
And I just had my longest client die a couple of years ago. He would be 27 years now. I've been personal training 24 years. And what I've come to find out is it's really about relationships.
Yes.
And you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be able to give what a person wants. But at the end of the day, it's about relationships.
I'm going to tell you, all interactions really are. How can people get a hold of you if they'd like to, other than the website, if you've got an email or something like that?
Yeah, you can go to Cottrell at twc.com, and that's Cottrell, or just go to Porter Cottrell and email me through to the website.
Folks, check out his website. It's really easy to navigate. There's a lot of great information here. You may pick something up. You could shoot Porter a message. I really want to thank you. I really looked forward to this. I'd like to have you back. Maybe I could get you on with Dorian or something, once I work my way up to that.
That's okay. Listen to me. Thank you for taking the time, and I really appreciate it. The interview last time,
yes,
the interview this time. You're very easy to interview with.
It was fun, and I think you help one. I know it sounds kind of altruistic, but it's really true. If you're not doing something good to help someone move along a little more easily, what good is anything when you think about it? And I think you've done that. I think, all of our people here, we've got some great people. I know they've gotten some great information to probably, hopefully contact you. But either way, I want to thank everybody very much. And we'll be back tomorrow with Will Brink. And then we've got, I got a bunch of pros, not all of your esteem level, but they've got things.
That's okay. Yeah, everyone has something to offer.
That's absolutely true. Porter, thank you so much, man.
Okay. Take care, Michael.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.